Hello everyone. So I've got a session here that I pulled up, and for the most part I have created this entire session on my phone. And this is a lesson that I'm going to get into after. Probably be the next thing I cover on how to create and use samples from your phone and sync that up with Ableton so that you can basically play along with Ableton on your phone and then send the parts over that you're creating on your phone into your session in Ableton on your computer. So it's really cool. I'll cover that next. But first I want to show you, well, let's just take a look at what I have here. Today we're going to talk about grouping tracks and why we want to group tracks together and the benefits of it, and I'll show you a couple other cool little things. So the first thing, I'm going to go over here and click my master stop button so that nothing's playing, and I'm just going to go through here and see what I have. So I know this is a drum beat. So a simple sample that I downloaded, and I don't think this is very well organized. I think I had just kind of, this is an older session, I think I just kind of started throwing things in here and didn't really get too far with it. So we'll see what else is on this track. So basically what it says is kind of like a shuffling sub. And let's listen to this close piano. So these are all pretty different types of tracks, and in fact they probably shouldn't be on this first track together. I'm going to keep my drum sample on here, and then I'm going to click Command R to rename. Command R, and we'll call this drums. And I'm going to do all caps because I like all caps. Drums. And then I'm just going to go ahead and click Command T, and create 2 new audio tracks there. And I'm going to bring this shuffle sub over here, and I'm going to call this one sub. And then this one is a piano, so I'm going to call this one piano. Okay, alright, so we have our bass, and I'm not sure that I want these all in the same scene, so I'm just going to, for now, pull these down, and maybe I can start building at least a scene. Alright, let's continue on, see what else we got. Okay, so looks like I got some more strings here. This seems to be kind of like a, okay, so night chord is what it's called. So I'm going to call this, let's see here. I'll call this main piano, because I think this is kind of like my main key element here. And in fact, I'm going to organize this so this is kind of over in this area. Alright, so one thing I'm going to just talk about really quickly is the display here, what's being displayed. So I'm working with my samples up in here. I'm working down in my editor. I'll probably need my my track mixer open, but I don't really need to see all my ins and outs right now. And I'm not really doing any recording or any routing internally, so I don't really need to access all this. So down here on the very right hand corner, let's see if I can click the control key as we do this. You'll see these buttons down here. I-O, S, R, M, and D. D is not highlighted. If we want, we can highlight it. And this shows our track delay. So all of these little buttons here are basically, if you turn them on and off, they will display certain elements of the session in your windows here. So we have in and out. If we deselect that, then our in and outs go away. They're just hidden, so we can always turn those back on when we need them. And the S stands for our sends. So right now, I've got some things sending over into my return tracks. but I might not necessarily need to see it. So I'm going to turn my sends off. And if I'm in the arrangement view, excuse me, I'm in the session view, you'll see that I have one return track, only one return track, and that's return track A. So I'm going to go ahead and turn return tracks off. And if I want, I can even turn off my mixer, my track mixer, but I'm going to keep that open. And I'm just going to make some more room here for myself. Just open up these windows, see what else we got here. So I've got my main piano, got my sub, my close, my other piano. So in fact, I'm just going to I'm moving these tracks around to kind of organize them the way that I would want to. Personally, I usually have this is just my way of doing things, but usually my tracks starting left to right, I usually kind of build it up like I would like a song is. Usually your drums or your percussive instruments and your sub instruments are more of the foundational instruments. So I kind of have those beginning at the left. And as I build up more and more to the right, I add on more and more instruments, and then usually somewhere toward the end are my vocals. So we're going to go through here and see what else we've got. So I might do a little shifting around with how things are organized, and then I'm going to start grouping tracks. So this sounds like another piano. As you can see here, it's a stereo file, and I've got more information on the left channel than I do on the right, so this is already going to be a track that's panning left, and you can see I've got it panned right. Maybe that's just to kind of even it out a little bit and add a little bit more onto this right channel. So I'm just going to rename this, Command R, and this would be piano loop. And these are all loops, but this is just a short loop. I can kind of keep track of what things are. And then we've got over here and that is incredibly quiet. I don't know why it's so quiet. I mean, it doesn't really seem too quiet. We've got all kinds of noises over here. As far as my levels go, my level meter, when I play it, it's still going up pretty high, but audibly doesn't seem to be very loud. Maybe it's an odd frequency. So this is kind of like a glitchy kind of piano. I'm just going to rename it Glitch. And we'll see what else we got going here. So this is kind of a robotic vocals. So it's like a vocal loop. I'll just rename this like Vox Loop. Let's move on, see what else we've got. So this is kind of like an explosion type of bass. So we'll call this sub explosion. And I'm going to go and I'm going to put this next to my sub instruments. And we'll keep moving on. It looks like this one's got some dead space here, so it's going to be a while before this loop comes back in. It'll play all the way through, and then it will have another full bar of waiting. It looks like another 8 bars. So this is MIDI information, and let's see what instrument we're using here. This is the operator, I believe. And I believe this is just just a preset, one of the presets. And the operator, somewhere in there, probably. Alright, so let's listen to this other one I have. I don't know about these. So we'll see how this sounds. And then over here, I've got, I know, some vocals.
Don't keep running away.
So this is Lloyd's vocals, and all three of these tracks are Lloyd.
Don't keep running away. Keep running away. Keep running away.
So, and we have a bunch over here, and I don't think, oh, this one says great take. And as you can see, there's like a full 9 or 8 bars that are not playing there. So I'm not sure what I was thinking back then. Let's go in here and see what's going on.
Don't keep running away.
So we'll put all our vocal takes maybe up by each other. So I've got take 1, take 2, take 3. I might just space these out a little bit and make some more room so I'm not getting mixed up. Alright, so let's hear what we have. Let's just play everything. Okay, sorry. So we got to talk about these loopers. These are fun. All right, so we've got a pretty cool song here, but now I want to start organizing it. And the reason why we're going to work in groups is because this is kind of like when we were talking about automation, volume automation. We don't necessarily want to add volume automation to the track itself because then we lose control over the volume. You know, every time we would adjust it manually, then we would be losing that automation. So we used a plugin called Utility for our volume automation, and then we basically we keep control over the track's volume, master volume, while we maintain the integrity of the automation. So think of groups kind of in the same way. What it does is it allows us to go in and mix all of our tracks in comparison to one another, but then we can take everything down and up together. So let me explain this further. So we've got my drum track. I don't have any other drums in this session, so I'm just going to put my drum track in its own group. And you can put one track in a group. So I'm going to right-click it and scroll down here and click Group Tracks, or we can use the quick key Command G. So we're going to group the drum track. Now if I want to, I can fold that group down, basically compress it, I guess you would call it, and all the contents are within this one track. I could have 30 things in this group, and if I click this little arrow, it's going to collapse them down to one group. So I'm going to rename this drum group. And so what I have just done is I've created a way to trigger everything within, so I get a new play button and a bunch of new stop buttons for this group, so I can trigger anything in this group by pressing play on it. And I now have a new volume control. So if I have, let's do it on these two subs. So these are two sub basses that I want to put together. I want to group them together. So I'm going to hold the Shift key, click on them. So now I've got the two highlighted. I'm going to right click now, Group Tracks. And so now I've got my sub instruments in a group as well. I don't necessarily have to have them all in the same row or anything, the same scene. I don't think I was playing it earlier with this sub playing, but anyway, we'll rename this track now. We'll call this our subgroup. And this could also be, you know, bass group, whatever, bass instruments. Usually you're going to have some kind of bass element. You'll have your drums and a bass element, and then everything kind of sits on top of that, most commonly. Alright, so we've got our subgroup here, and now we have a new gain control, volume control. We have a new device rack. So the cool thing is you can put effects on a device, you can put effects on a group, and everything in the group becomes affected, because essentially what's happening now, let's go look at our ins and outs, is now that we have this group, so let's take a look at this track, this piano track. Right now it is not in a group. So if we go down to the output and we look at the output, where is our audio going to? It's going to the master channel. So it's going out to the master channel and then out to our speakers. But when we put something inside of a group, first that instrument needs to run through the group master, through the group volume, so this track mixer here, and then it goes into the master channel. So if we look at this sub instrument, we look at the output, audio to, group, and then it goes through the group, and then it goes out to the master. So now we've created more internal routing. Alright, so then we've got 3 pianos. Actually, we've got like 4 pianos. So I'm going to highlight all 4 of these, hold the shift key, right click, group tracks. So now all of these are heading out to a group, and the group is going out to the master. So I'm going to call this the piano group, Command R. And then we have a vocal loop and some MIDI stuff here. I don't know if I liked that very much. It sounds like, I don't know. Anyway, so we've got maybe some kind of like sound effects. This is more kind of a sound effect. So I'm going to click Command G and create a new group for even that one sound effect. Who knows, I may add more. And we'll call this SFX for sound effects group. And then this is like MIDI piano. I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of leave this one for now. And then I have my 3 vocal tracks for Lloyd. So I'm gonna highlight all these and rename, group tracks. And I'll call this one vocal group. And then I can come in here and rename these. So vocal 1, and I'm just going to press tab, and everything stays highlighted for me to rename the next track. This will be vocals 2, tab, vocals 3. Cool. Alright, so now I've got all of these groups that I've created. I can collapse them all. I can kind of condense my session a little bit. I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to move this track. Alright, so now I have basically what I can do is I can start going through, and this is going to help me in my mixing process. This is going to help me stay organized and give me more control over groups of tracks when I'm mixing. And the way that I'm going to go about doing this is, let me show you something here. When I'm playing this track, see what's happening here? Look right here. You don't want to see red anywhere. Red is not your friend. Well, I guess it's your friend in letting you know that you're doing something wrong. Because once your volume goes out of the master channel and it's above that 0 mark, you are certainly going to have a sound that is going to distort speakers. They're not meant and not capable of handling over that threshold there. So basically your sound will degrade if you start pushing anything into the red.